This is a raw afternoon with families in mourning as the US diplomatic corps and indeed the entire nation reels from an attack on the United States consulate in Libya with 4 Americans killed, including Ambassador Christopher Stevens. The president visited the State Department earlier today, signing a book of condolence in memory of Ambassador Stevens. Flags have been ordered at half-staff at the White House and all other public buildings for a period of 5 days to honour the deceased. But with 55 days to the election, violence against US missions in Libya and Cairo has also become a flashpoint in the presidential campaign, providing a perfect case study in how these candidates respond to crisis. The president spoke in the Rose Garden this morning alongside Secretary of State Hillary Clinton.
As Americans, let us never, ever forget that our freedom is only sustained because there are people who are willing to fight for it, to stand up for it, and in some cases, lay down their lives for it. Today we mourn for more Americans who represent the very best of the United States of America. We will not waver in our commitment to see that justice is done for this terrible act, and make no mistake, justice will be done.
Now, as the president has said, Mitt Romney is new to foreign policy, so he may have wanted to take some notes on how a president mourns the loss of a seasoned diplomatic envoy and others in the midst of a volatile international situation. Here's a hint. It's not by launching a craven and misinformed political attack, as Mr. Romney was only too eager to do in a statement last night that he reiterated this morning, cancelling a rally in Florida only to turn it into a hastily organised press conference before the president had even spoken. Indeed, before all 4 of the fallen Americans had even been identified.
When our grounds are being attacked and being breached, that the first response of the United States must be outrage at the breach of the sovereignty of our nation. An apology for America's values is never the right course. The president and his administration have done something which is inconsistent with the principles of America.
Except that the statement Romney is talking about was issued when the embassy was not yet under attack. Indeed, Mr. Romney is hanging a crucial moment in his campaign on a political volley that confounds basic chronology. The US Embassy statement was a preemptive effort to quell demonstrations over an anti-Muslim film that was starting to stir passions. Quote, "The Embassy of the United States in Cairo condemns the continuing efforts by misguided individuals to hurt the religious feelings of Muslims." Again, that was yesterday afternoon in a developing crisis before the attacks on our diplomatic missions. But that didn't stop the Romney camp from issuing a statement around 10 o'clock last night. Quote, "It's disgraceful that the Obama administration's first response was not to condemn attacks on our diplomatic missions, but to sympathise with those who waged the attacks." Now, if you're scratching your head wondering, where's the evidence that the president sympathises with those who waged the attacks? That's probably because it doesn't exist. Never mind, Mr. Romney, carry on.
It's never too early for the United States government to condemn attacks on Americans.
Never too early, even if the attacks haven't happened yet. Joining us now, here in New York, is MSNBC political analyst Jonathan Alter, and in Washington, Dana Milbank, who's a political columnist for The Washington Post. John, in his news conference today, Romney says the 3 branches of his foreign policy are, and I'm quoting him, confidence, clarity, and resolve. I noticed the word accuracy was absent.
It's not just that it was inaccurate, it was that it was very unpresidential and unwise. You know, one of the things that voters are looking for, especially when they're looking at a challenger, is what would this person actually be like on the job as President of the United States?
And here you have the example.
We have a glimpse. John Boehner, Mitch McConnell, John McCain, Lindsey Graham, all of the other major Republicans, they understood that today, when we've just had this terrible tragedy, we've lost our first ambassador since 1979, that today what you do is you express sympathy for the families. You say that justice will be done. You don't engage in political point scoring on this occasion. It is extraordinarily unpresidential. Remember, one of the things the president has to do is be the mourner in chief, pull the country together when we're under attack, as we were last night in Libya and Cairo. So for him to behave this way, and on top of that, to say things in his statement that are just factually untrue, is really, I think, a decisive moment in this campaign.
Dana, what's your reaction to the fact that Mr. Romney issues that statement before even the next of kin of those who have been killed have been informed? I mean, is this what we've come to? Do we have absolutely no regard for the dead?
You know, Martin, we've reached various points in this campaign where we've said, how can things get any worse than this? And I mean, I even remember we were talking about it when the whole birther thing came back again. Now we've reached a whole other order of magnitude here, and one shudders to think what, you know, we have more than 50 days left. What else could happen here? This started out bad enough at night as it looking like there had just been a mistake in the statement that was made, and they didn't, you know, maybe you could say they didn't realize the chronology of it. But to compound it this morning after the death of the ambassador had been reported, you can see they're already beginning to be some sort of a recoil here. Now, after Romney's statement, Paul Ryan comes out. You don't hear any of this blaming the Obama administration.
But Dana, hang on a minute. You're talking about a recoil. The man stands in front of the press today and goes much further than he did in his own statement. He starts describing the president's conduct as disgraceful.
Right.
That's not recoiling, Dana. That's doubling down in my book.
Martin, I'm saying they're recoiling since the doubling down this morning.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
I think what's happened is they realize that they really have stepped in at this time. I mean, Romney's instinct in various cases has been to, you know, stick with the conservative base, go with that line of attack. That was his first instinct here. Clearly, he realized there was trouble. That's why you see them putting out all these, you know, background talking points now. That's why you see Paul Ryan coming out and giving a very different statement this afternoon than Mitt Romney gave this morning.
Indeed. To both of you now, we've just heard that a new editorial has appeared in the Wall Street Journal. Sorry, I think it's in your paper, Dana. Tuesday is a tragedy that should prompt bipartisan support for renewed U.S. aid to Libyans who are struggling to stabilize the country. That instead provoked a series of crude political attacks on President Obama by GOP presidential nominee Mitt Romney. Is a discredit to his campaign. John, do you see this as a pivotal moment in the Romney campaign?
Well, I can't say for sure, but I certainly hope that it is. You know, you've got to draw a distinction between gaffes, which is when somebody misspeaks and they pay some political price for it, and colossal miscalculations, which have in the past, sometimes by themselves, sunk campaigns. And they're not gaffes, slips of the tongue. They're things like Barry Goldwater defending extremism in 1964, or Walter Mondale promising he's going to raise everybody's taxes in 1984, or John McCain suspending his campaign in 2008 to say that he's going to go solve the economic crisis and then not having anything to say about how he would solve it. I would put this in that category as a moment, a defining moment in this campaign where we got a glimpse of what kind of president Mitt Romney would be, and it ain't a good one.
Dana, they're not gaffes. I want you to listen to the number of times Romney said apologize or some version of that word at the news conference. Take a listen, Dana.
To stand in apology for our values, an apology for America's values, a statement which is akin to apology, to apologize for American values, effectively apologizing for the right of free speech. The principles America was based upon are not something we shrink from or apologize for. The Embassy of the United States issued what appeared to be an apology for American principles.
At least 7 times, Dana. Why is he hanging his foreign policy on this one word?
Boy, maybe because there aren't a whole lot of other words available to him at this point in time. I think Jonathan was absolutely correct in invoking John McCain last time, suspending his campaign. This is the week 4 years ago when Lehman Brothers collapsed, and basically that was the end, in retrospect, of the McCain campaign. What they were doing was flailing, saying, we're behind in the polls, the electoral map is shrinking, let's try a Hail Mary, let's try, as your NBC colleagues say, throw the kitchen sink at the guy, see what we can get. That's what he's done here. It appears now that this has failed in something of a spectacular way. We'll only know in retrospect whether that is in fact what happened.
You know, on the apology point, Mitt Romney wrote a whole book called No Apology.
He did.
Where he said that, Barack Obama had been on an apology tour, and yet he couldn't cite a single example. There wasn't a single quote in that entire book of Barack Obama apologizing for the United States. This whole thing is made up out of whole cloth.
He needs to find the word accuracy as opposed to apology. Jonathan Alter and Dana Milbank, thank you, gentlemen.